Kino pavasaris. Kovo 18, balandžio 5 dienomis visoje Lietuvoje. Didysis partneris – Ergo draudimo grupė. Informaciniai partneriai – TV3, 15 min, žmonės.
Mūsų karta pirmoji supratusi, kaip iš lėto kenkiame gamtai. Ir vienintelė, žinanti, kad dar yra laiko ją išsaugoti. Apsaugokime mūsų visų ateitį. Ergo.
Geriausius kino pavasario filmus parodys žiūrimiausia televizija TV3. Šeštadieniais 22:40.
Festivalis Kino pavasaris jūsų namuose. Visus filmus žiūrėkite Telia televizijoje jums patogiu metu. Telia. Įdomiau tik gyvenimas.
The laws of physics. The laws of life. Laws connect everything. We think that to be legal advisors, we must live under the same philosophy. Adapting to connect and connecting to adapt.
Labas vakaras, Kino pavasario ir 15 min žiūrovai. Sveikinuosi iš Mo muziejaus ir šiandien turime ypatingą galimybę kalbėti su dokumentinio Benjamin Ree, režisierius Benjamin Ree filmo Tapytoja ir vagis, veikėja, pačia tapytoja Barbora Kysilkova. So, hi Barbora. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
It's really nice to have you here, even though it's a virtual conversation, but it's really a big pleasure to finally meet you. So welcome. And when I was thinking about this conversation, how to start, I thought that maybe it would be interesting for us to start from, not from the beginning, but from the end. And I was thinking maybe you could say, how long ago did the shooting of the films finished? And how did you felt when it ended?
You know, I'm usually, as the real painters are, kind of lost in time. So I hope I will anyway provide you with good information that the filming stopped in 2018. And then it was for a long time in the process of editing. Also, the director, Benjamin Ree, he had some little personal issues, so it was a little bit postponed, everything. But after all, the timing is not happening by chance. So I think it came out to the world in the right time. And yeah, how was it for me? You know, it's like when suddenly that normally just happens alone in the studio and you paint, and suddenly for 3 years you have almost constant presence of a camera behind your back or in front of your face. And one sort of gets used to it and the attention and all. But honestly, I was quite happy when the filming was over, to be honest. Yes.
Was it very difficult for you, this presence? I understand that it was something really new, because yeah, painter's job, a profession is really kind of lonely in a way, but suddenly you have this company of not only director but this new friend of yours. So maybe you could share how this experience actually changed, you know, when it started, because it's 3 years. So how is this feeling of having some kind of presence of cameras changed throughout the process?
So as I said at the beginning, it was quite a shock for me that there was really quite constant presence of somebody else, which was not my boyfriend or not my friend, but it was the director who himself was often the photographer. But then that also had to do something with the sensitivity of Benjamin and the other photographer, that they really managed to make themselves, as one could say, as a fly on the wall. Like they really became invisible because they are very sensitive people and very careful, so, and very professional. Then I think that makes them, that they really managed to almost disappear from the room. So you also don't have the feeling that you need to act in front of the camera because you really forget its presence. And let me also add one more thing, and that is, when you have Bertil around, the life sort of gets bigger than life in his presence. So then definitely in your mind, there is no space to take in any camera or anything else. It's just full focus on what is going on with Bertil.
Yeah, but he's really interesting person, and I don't want to imagine, I actually just want to ask, because a lot of people, after watching the film, I heard many comments that the scene when he first sees himself in your painting is so explosive, so touching, and everybody's really speaking about that special moment. And I rewatched the film just recently, and I was thinking to ask you how you understood at that moment his reaction. How did you feel about his? What did you think that was happening within him?
He told me later on, so I just start with forwarding to you what Bertil told me later on, and that was that his reaction came like this because he felt that at this moment it was the first time that he was being seen for who he is. And then this then made not sense, but I understood it. It explained somehow for me also not everything, but a lot of things about Bertil. But at that very moment when it happened, of course, you can't plan anything like this. You can't get ready for it. So, at that time of Bertil's life, he was not in his strongest shoes, let's say. He was quite vulnerable, struggling with his addiction. So I think he just simply was not prepared to face such direct confrontation with himself. And he therefore had no filters, to filter out some emotions that he would maybe rather not like to show. But it just came to him so suddenly that he just could not stop to act as true himself, which of course for me was very confusing at that moment, because I didn't know how to react, whether I should just disappear somehow from the room or should I hug him. And maybe you remember I do try to hug him. Yes. Later on, after, I don't know, maybe 1 minute or something, and he pushes me away. And there I felt a little bit, but I was, of course, it's like he is processing this moment for himself. So, of course, I realized to just give him the space. And then he offered me a hug himself when he was sort of ready, or he already processed somehow his own emotions.
And I also wanted to ask, because I think in the film you are not explaining why you had this kind of image of him. Maybe you could say a bit about this first image. What did you see in him that you wanted to show to others, and maybe first of all to Karl Bertil himself?
Are you talking about this very specific painting, or general?
Yeah, about the painting.
So, it was not that I asked him to sit in my atelier for 8 hours every day. Somehow this world is not made for this anymore. So this actually was the images I took by a camera, and that was from the very first day when we met after the court, where actually I was inviting the thief of my art that I didn't know at that time that well. I was inviting him over to my atelier where all my other paintings are. So of course, for somebody for some third party, this just must be a totally crazy thing to do. And yes, when I look back, it was a crazy thing to do, or let's say naive maybe. But if I didn't have this drop of naivety, a lot of great things in my life wouldn't have happened. So I'm glad that I did invite him, and I'm very glad that he accepted. Because if you look at this situation from his perspective, how it must have been for him, to actually come to my studio, and after a while he himself feels a lot of shame and insecurities, of course, based on what I then realized his life has been like not easy to trust to people for him. And so back to your question about this very painting, this picture. So we were just around my studio for a while talking. He started to get, I think, a little bit more comfortable, more safe. And I started to just take pictures. And at that moment, I felt that he really starts to put aside all his protective masks and layers, you know, and he starts to allow me to see him. And this was then the motive for the painting. So it was actually somehow captured both in the camera and in my mind, in my memory, captured the moment where he started to understand that I'm not here to hurt him or misuse him or, you know.
Yeah, it's really, there is this feeling of growing trust and care, which is probably the main things for a good and rich friendship. So I really liked how Benjamin Ree kind of let this all the perspectives, yours and Karl Bertils, to appear in the film, just to hear, because it was very beautiful for me, these parts when you are telling about him, and then later on he's telling about you. And I was wondering, was it Benjamin's idea, or maybe you were participating as well in this process and suggesting something that you felt would be right to show this friendship?
Well, definitely, I have to admit that Benjamin was very communicative with both Bertil and me about the whole process. Like, he felt he needs to and wants to keep us all somehow informed, or to share his ideas about what can be done along the movie. And so it probably came like this all together from maybe all three of us, and maybe, shall I say, all four of us, because my boyfriend, Oystein, he was actually sort of like the man behind the scene advisor for Benjamin, because Oystein, he's a writer. He writes novels. So he has a very, very specific, very sharp, beautiful feeling for a story and for storytelling. So I know that Benjamin and Oystein spent quite a long time, and often they were talking together, like just brainstorming, sharing ideas. And this, how Bertil talks about me and me talking about Bertil, it just was proposed, just an idea from Benjamin. And it worked pretty well, because at that time we already knew each other quite well with Bertil. So we were able to talk about each other. And let's face it, it's like I myself would never be able to describe myself, Bertil does, and vice versa, I would say. And it's also, I think, for you, for the viewer, it's also different to get to know things about the person through a third or second. I think actually that really made the movie quite specific and beautiful, this very moment.
We have a question from the audience. So Egoda is asking, do you still keep in touch with Bertil? And did you manage to find your other missing painting?
Oh, you bet that I'm in touch with Bertil. I think we are now bonded together. Even if we wanted to get separated, I don't think we would be sort of allowed. I mean, of course, this anyway is a very unique friendship, and the fact of the movie and what for a feedback and reception we have of this movie from all over the world, it's just beyond any imagination we ever had. So I'm not saying that we're forced to stay in touch, not at all. Nobody needs to force me to stay Bertil's friend, and I hope he would say the same. We are not in touch now physically, like we don't see each other, because I am not in Oslo, in Norway. I am now in my home country, in Czech Republic, in my hometown of Prague. So, but we are in touch through social media, of course. And yeah, in 2 weeks I'm heading back to Scandinavia, so I can't wait to hug him again. Furthermore, of course, there are quite countless amounts of paintings in my head that I need to put on the canvas, and that include Bertil, of course. So we need to see each other pretty soon.
And the second part of the question was, and did you manage to find your other missing painting?
No.
No, so that one is gone.
Or let's say it's still mystery. And if I may admit, sort of not happy, but I kind of like that the story is not yet fully closed, you know, that there still remains some questions in the air.
Yeah. And Tauras is asking, because I started from the end, but Tauras wants to know the beginning. So how did the filming process start, and did Benjamin reach to you at first?
So the filming, okay, Benjamin approached me after he read in the newspaper, one of the biggest Norwegian newspaper called Aftenposten. So they wrote sort of follow-up story because they reported about the robbery at the day of the robbery. And then later, I don't know how, but they found out that Bertil and I, we sort of, yeah, started to develop a friendship. So I was contacted by a journalist whether we would be willing to give an interview, which Bertil and I both we agreed. And then this article reached Benjamin. So right away he called me. It's a nice thing, you know, in Norway, you're able to find the phone number of whoever online in Norway. So it was easy to find me and to call me. And then the very next day, of course, first I had to ask Bertil, because I can't say yes or no without taking him into account, especially knowing that he has, let's say, his very serious fights in life, and to be filmed means you really need to expose yourself, more or less. I'm really, really proud of Bertil that he agreed and he took the risk. So the next day we have met with the director, with Benjamin, and I remember we both expected that there will come some older man, you know, I don't know why we had such a nation of photography. And then there came this young dude, you know, like happy-go-lucky, very sympathetic, very, very smart, very funny to talk with. And there was very, very fast connection between Bertil and Benjamin, which was a great sign. So it was really beautiful, smooth start. And we both started to feel pretty soon pretty comfortable in the project.
That's great. And I have another question from Romanas, and he's asking, after you found the stolen picture, did you continue to expose it in the exhibitions, or maybe it's already sold?
Oh man, that was one of the craziest things in my life when I found the painting, because from the perspective of the law, painting did not belong to me. It actually belonged to either the gallery or the insurance company. So what I was doing, and it was quite late in the evening, 10 p.m. I think, in winter, dark in Oslo, of course. So what I did, I went to the police station with the rolled canvas. And so imagine the poor policeman who took my case, where I've really probably 5 times had to explain him that this is my painting, which got stolen. Now I found it, but I have to bring it here because it doesn't belong to me. Poor man. But okay, he got it later on. So it had to stay at the police station, and there was some process between the between the gallery and the insurance company and the police. So it did not include me at all. But then, after some time, the Norwegian producer actually decided to offer to the gallery to buy the painting from them. Because if I go too much to details now, then stop me. But there is also this law that the painting was damaged. It has cracks and it's really damaged. So the gallerist would not be allowed without my permission to sell it or to expose it. And of course, I wouldn't give them the permission. I'm not that nice. So they only benefited from selling it for some kind of nice price to the producer. So now it belongs to the producer in Norway, and it's in a secret place.
Wow, that's really, really interesting. And another question from the audience is, you say the filming ended in 2018. Did you then feel an increase in interest in your work and paintings?
Yeah, so as I said, the filming stopped in the 2018, but then there was a long process with editing and post-production. And just to give you an idea, Benjamin had footage that was 300 hours of material, of raw material. So imagine how, what for a work this must be for an editor, by the way, who was really an excellent editor. So it was really such a long process to choose the scenes to in the movie, because if it was only up to Benjamin, the movie would be like 4 hours, 4.5 hours. But as he says, he had to drop off a lot of his darlings, so a lot of scenes had to be left aside. And then I started to feel, of course, certain change in my life when the movie got out to the world. So first it was the Sundance, and then in May last year it came out to the online streams in US. And there I started to receive messages, both Bertil and me started to receive messages from different people, first in America and then all over the world as it started to spread. So I'm now glad to say that I can go to the supermarket and buy the grapes, which I could not in the movie. And I can even buy myself new colors, and I can take my man out for dinner. So yeah, there is a nice change in both of our lives, Bertil's and mine. For Bertil, I have to say, and that's, I think, the biggest achievement of anyone in this movie, is that he is now sober for almost 3 years. He's finishing his bachelor studies. He is building his new home, his new life. He has a wonderful new girlfriend, not the one that we see in the end of the movie. It's, still life had to change a bit more in his way, but I think he's now in such marvelous and safe space. And I'm so proud of seeing what he managed, what he achieved with himself. And he's even now actually working part-time in the prison where he himself was in prison. He's there as an advisor for the inmates, to talk to them, to give certain advices about the life out there once they are released. And he's very focused now on the kind of social part of the society, sort of maybe paying back to the society what the society gave him. I don't know, of course, I'm not speaking for Bertil now. It's just my assumption.
It's really wonderful to hear, because already in all the conversations between you and him, you can sense this really good understanding of emotions and this kind of light within him, which was just, overshadowed by this destruction and of course by the addiction, which is really changing and taking the person away from who he actually is. So it's really, really heartwarming to hear that he's back on track and is happy.
Yeah, so true.
And
so true. It's also just want to say that that was really beautiful what you see in the end of the movie. But friendship is a mutual relationship, of course. It's a mutual responsibility. And exactly as you just said, that when he started to step out of the shadow of the drugs, he was able to also provide me with his responsibility towards to me as to his friend. And it was really beautiful process for me to see how he started to put himself together.
We have another question from the audience. Benita is asking, could you please tell us more about the last painting that was shown in the film? When and why did you decide to paint yourself in it?
Benita, you're not giving me easy time here. But thank you for the question. I have noticed that it makes a lot of people wonder what that ending actually is. Here, I just first want to say how Benjamin likes to present that ending, and that is, it's better to leave you as the audience with more questions than answers. But that's, of course, that's about his project, about his movie. But the question was about the painting, and that's my project and my responsibility to, of course, give you some little clues of why I made what I made. So you might remember in the movie, I was collecting pictures for that very painting with, at that time, girlfriend of Bertil. And the concept was from my older painting from 2011, which was called Heartbeat, where we see two figures. One figure is bending, one man is bending over a laying man and having his ear on the chest of the laying figure and just checking whether there is a heartbeat. And I already felt for some time that I want to make a new version of this painting. And then, of course, once Bertil stepped into my life, and I had to admit that there were quite countless moments where I wondered whether Bertil's heart was beating. Like the worries were really insane in a certain time. So it was obvious that he is going to be the new version of this painting. And at that time, I thought of to have his girlfriend there because she really cared a lot and took care of him a lot. So it was not meant to be as anything like with sexual or love affair. It was really just two human beings where one is really just trying to see if the other figure, the other person is still alive. But before I started to work on this painting, they split up. And then, you know, some thoughts came together like pieces of puzzle, and I realized that, of course, I've been secretly wishing to actually have me included in the canvas, in the painting where Bertil is as well. And I also felt that I owe him this little bit. You know, I felt like I've been exposing him all the time, but I always stayed away, you know, safe in my safe zone. So I felt this is actually, no question, this is the moment where I'm going to daringly include myself in this painting. So that's what I did.
And the time is actually running already to an end, but I was thinking to end this conversation maybe of asking more about your work as an artist, not only at the moment, but how this friendship and all this experience in the film, did it change somehow your, you know, approach to painting, and maybe there was some new themes or topics that, you know, grew out of this whole experience, such a long experience? Hey.
So now we froze.
No, all good. I can hear you.
Are we back?
Yeah, we're back.
Okay. So I don't think I heard the complete question, but just to basically, you asked about whether my work or subjects of my work has changed since the experience. Maybe I could give you better answer on this in perspective of more time, more years from now. You know, maybe if you might be familiar with more of my paintings, my works, you might see that the themes are sort of spinning around the same thing since years, or actually since I started to paint, where it's always about us human beings, and more like in the perspective of daring to remind us the memento mori, that we are all mortal, and especially in our time where our society tends so successfully to deny that one day we're going to die. Me as a painter, I feel even more obliged to put it on my work, into my painting, not at all in some shocking way. On the contrary, rather in, you know, the natural way, like there's nothing wrong about it. And furthermore, there is always some kind of light at the end of the tunnel. And I don't necessarily mean religious, in a religious way. So, and as you can imagine, Bertil's presence in my life only underlines all these topics. So I'm actually just going maybe deeper into where I was before.
Great. So thank you so much, Barbora, for sharing your thoughts. And actually, thank you to you and to Karl Bertil for such an openness in this film and for, showing how beautifully can friendship grow. So really, thank you so much for your time, and I wish you good luck.
Thank you very much, and I surely will say your greetings to Bertil. And thank you everybody for the questions and for watching. I hope you enjoyed.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye.
When I close the door, I start to paint. That's my universe.
2 paintings were stolen from a gallery in Norway today. The paintings were stolen in broad daylight.
I don't know what to think.
We have identified the thief. We have not found the painting.
We had his name from the court papers. You might know who I am. I'm just a curious person. What made you do it?
It was your masterpiece.
Since I'm a painter, I'd love to make a portrait of you.
I'll ask you regularly to sit here.
I can tell you some more about how I got to be a criminal.
This guy is often quite self-destructive. It feels like that is his way to be seen. You can open your eyes now.
Whoa! What the f...
There was no way how I could see the thief in this guy.
Hun ser meg jævlig godt. Men hun glemmer av og til at jeg ser henne minst like godt.
I might never find out where the paintings are. Do you know anything about black market with art?
I have told you everything I remember, and that's the truth.
Hvorfor hjelper meg så mye?
You're the craziest person I've ever met.
Let's see what you're doing for me.
You inspire me.
This is insane. This is a very, very sneaky guy.
He's a bad boy, really bad boy. I started to search for the paintings.
You must know where it is. Do you understand the risk?
Don't even try!
Just tell me.
Don't even try, I'm serious.
This is destructive.